Virginia, William Hill, America's #1 sports book, is now here. And we have a special 2021 offer to help you bet on all your favorite sports risk-free. Download the William Hill Sportsbook app, and when you sign up, you can get started with a risk-free bet of up to $2,021. Use promo code RADIORF.
Terms and conditions apply. 21 plus only. Gambling problem? Call, text, or chat our confidential and toll-free helpline at 1-888-532-3500.
Let's make it interesting with William Hill Sportsbook.
Spring forward at Banana Republic Factory with 50 to 70% off everything. Shop season favorites from colorful dresses to easy tops from $19.99. Find your nearest store or shop online only at Banana Republic Factory. Shop 50 to 70% off almost everything at Gap Factory. Get 60% off select jeans and dresses. Shop the sale through March 28th at Gap Factory and gapfactory.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Hoof Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Romeo, and I've got a special treat for you today. This is going to be a special episode that we are titling Anthony Squared, because on the other end with me is the other Anthony from our Cover One network, Anthony Prohaska. What's going on, Anthony? How you doing?
I'm super excited. Well, I was excited anyway, but the fact that you pronounced my last name correctly has made me super excited. So many people don't pronounce it correctly.
What do you get?
So I get Prohaska. I get House, like they add an H. I get like O's, like Prohoos or Prohaske. Just weird. And I get it, like, because it's not a common name, but I mean, you're a scientist and you're smart, so I should have expected nothing but top-tier name pronunciation from you.
My wife might disagree with you there on the name pronunciation, or at least the remembering names part. But Prohaska, I mean, that's how it looks to me, at least. I don't know.
I appreciate you for that. So that has me excited, and just being here in general, the only thing better than one Anthony is two Anthonys, and we get to do our first episode together when we'll also be doing another episode together this week on my on my show on Cover One Disguised Coverage. So it's a lot of Anthony and Anthony this week, and we've got some cool things to talk about in this episode and break down and address. So I'm excited for that, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited that you said my name right.
Of course, yeah. I'm glad I did. That's a good for me as well. And let's jump right in, man, because we've got a lot of football to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
And our plan for tonight, we're going to talk a little bit AFC East. Then we're going to go into best and worst in free agency. And then lastly, we'll start with a new segment that I'm calling Bargain Bin or Garbage Bin. We will go through some of the free agents that are still out there and classify them as Garbage Bin or Bargain Bin, meaning we want them or we wouldn't want them on our team. They'd be worth it or they're not worth it, basically. So yeah, jumping right in. AFC East, man, we have made some changes in this division. I think the biggest take-home message so far out of free agency is that the division has gotten a lot better, a lot more competitive, which is great. Everybody's chasing after the Buffalo Bills, which is new for us. We know the moves our own Buffalo Bills have made, choosing to keep a lot of the pieces we have had in place, which is magic enough, the way Brandon Beane has made it work. You know, my favorite move from the Buffalo Bills being Matt Milano, who I thought for sure was going to be gone, but has been one of my favorite Buffalo Bills for a long time. And he's certainly taken the slow and steady approach. Sign our own, find a few key pieces to fill in. But the rest of the division is chasing after us. And I want to go through each team a little bit here. So we'll start with the New England Patriots, the team that's made the most news in free agency with their signings. So I'll just, rattle off a few of the guys they signed. Wide receiver Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver Kendrick Bourne, Trent Brown, the offensive tackle, Matt Judon, probably their favorite signing of in my perspective at least, Jalen Mills, Hunter Henry, Kyle Van Noy, they brought him back, and Jonnu Smith. Obviously, that was another one of the big ones. So lots of names here, lots of money. They are signing the checks there. Anthony, I want to get your perspective first. What did you think of all these moves that the Patriots have done? I think clearly it points out they're chasing the Bills, But how do you think it affects their team? What do you think this means for them?
I think they're a better team in 2021 than they were in 2020. I think that goes without saying. And if you're on the opposite side of that, which I've heard some people are, I would just strongly disagree with it. Regardless of the Patriots hate or Patriots shade that you want to cast their way, they will be a significantly better team in 2021 with who they added. And the caveat with that is it is very much out of character for them to go after free agents like this and spend the money that they did. But it's also out of character for them with the position that they're in, having to look up at somebody else in the division, this time it being the Buffalo Bills. And it's not a one-year fluke. It's not, some random things happen and someone else won the AFC East. The Bills, knock on wood, are a good football team. They have good leadership. They're set up for long-term success. So it's weird and odd to see the Pats chasing after another team and then signing all these free agents to this big splash kind of money. And I think that's the other caveat for me. Like, I like the moves that they made, and I think they got better as a team. But the contracts that they gave out are just wild. Off of day one, they had $194.5 million in new contracts. And when you're looking at everything, like, I like Nelson Aguilar. I think he's a good wide receiver. But the fact that he got the same contract as John Ngakwe, he got ridiculous money. It's 2 years, 22, but it can go up to like 26. So it's basically like a $13 million contract. Even the Kendrick Bourne signing was a decent amount. I like Jonnu Smith. I like Hunter Henry. But I don't like Jonnu Smith enough to make him the third highest paid tight end in terms of annual or average annual value. And then Hunter Henry is right behind him. I like the Judon signing. Jalen Mills is a cool corner, but not for 4 years, $24 million. They signed Devon Godchaux for 2 years, $16 million. Like, if you're just looking at the roster, they're better, and I like the moves that they made. But if you look at the term and the money, I think they faltered. And we might be sitting here next year, or definitely the year after, looking at storylines of the Pats potentially cutting some of these guys or trying to get out of these salaries, and they make them better as a team in 2021, but I question the long-term direction of these signings, and I know you do as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we are definitely on the same page here. A guy like Jonnu Smith, who I loved and talked about potentially coming to the Bills, really a lot of us at Cover One were saying, but we were talking $8 million, and he got a heck of a lot more than that, and long term. And not just that, but then they go and sign Hunter Henry, potentially the best tight end in free agency this year. I mean, for even another huge contract, it just doesn't make sense to me. The wide receivers they brought in at top wide receiver price, I mean, think about it. Nelson Aguilar is making more than Cole Beasley, is making more than Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, he'd be the number 2 paid receiver on the Bills, and I can't understand that at all. Same with Kendrick Bourne's contract. It's just the guys they signed way too much. They really cash these checks. Like you said, I was going to ask you specifically about this, but you brought it up. The 2021, it looks better on paper for sure. It was hard to have a worse roster than they did last year, but what happens in 2022 and beyond? Has Bill Belichick, I said this on Tuesday night's live show, has Bill Belichick ever shown that he's been able to put a team of random guys assembled together? No, never. That's not what he does. He maintains a culture. He fills in the blanks. He keeps things going. This is the first time ever he's signed this many guys and trying to, put all the pieces of a soup together, taking all the leftovers and putting a soup together. Not that these players are leftovers, but the fact that they've never played together and that, this offense is taking on a whole new look. And to boot, Cam Newton is still the guy at quarterback. And that to me is going to hold this team back. So a lot of money, but not a lot of problem solving on this team, I think, which is going to be a problem for them long term.
Yeah,
so
and you look at the situation they're in now with the draft picks that haven't hit for them and the other development and value players and prospects that they brought in, they just haven't hit. And again, it's so, I guess, out of character for them, because I think so many people are used to the Patriots going into free agency and grabbing, 2 or 3 guys to supplement the roster, but a lot of things are shored up and solidified. And instead, they're out here making big splashes to bring in guys who are going to play significant snaps. It's not like they signed one big guy and then had a couple like they normally do, or like when they brought in Darrelle Revis, or when they made certain moves and you're like, oh man, that's a great addition. They went big time shopping because they haven't developed the roster the way they normally do. And whether you want to tie it to Tom Brady being gone or whatever, they're just not in this position of power in terms of what they already have built on their roster. We're so used to Belichick just finding some guy on the street and turning him into a stud, whether it's on offense or defense. And it's a very interesting situation to see that they don't feel like that now, and they're not like that now, and they had to spend a gajillion dollars to try and reinvent themselves and be a better team for 2021 because what they already had in the cupboard wasn't good enough to make a good meal.
Yeah, exactly. I think what you said is perfectly spot on. And at the end, we're going to rank these teams and see where we think they stand. So I won't ask you that quite yet. And we'll move on then to the New York Jets, the second team in this division that made some significant changes, had some money to spend. The biggest change for me, at least, the one I like the most, is talked about coming to the Bills, edge Carl Lawson. Right, that was a big one for them. Wide receivers, they changed that too. Keelan Cole, they brought in him. Corey Davis, another big signing for them. And then the other ones they brought in, linebacker Gerard Davis, Dan Feeney, LaMarcus Joyner, the defensive back. So a couple of changes there. Again, I think the biggest and most impactful was Carl Lawson, which really, the defensive line was already good there with the Jets. So that changes them. What do you think of these moves in general, what this does for the team? Does this move the needle for you for the New York Jets?
I think it moves the needle, and this is going to sound rude and disrespectful, but pretty much anything they would have done would have moved the needle, because when you're so close to the bottom, there's like nowhere to go but up. So just signing Carl Lawson would have moved the needle. But I liked what they did, even though you and I spoke about this on Disguised Coverage. We've spoken about it on Twitter. So many Bills fans have spoken about it on Twitter. Carl Lawson was the darling that everybody wanted this offseason, and I liked him a lot. I still like him. I do think 3 years, $45 million is a lot for him. He got roughly the same deal, just one more year in it in terms of average annual value than Trey Hendrickson did. And I don't know if Carl Lawson's a premium pass rusher like that, and if he's the guy that can be your focal point and the tip of the spear for your pass rush. So I might question the monetary value of it, but again, just from a roster standpoint, if you're looking at it on paper, I really like the Carl Lawson move. Their receivers were lacking, and now you take a guy like Corey Davis, add him with Denzel Mims. Those two are both in a similar kind of mold and body type and skill set. And I like Corey Davis, despite the fact that he's never produced any time I've ever started him in fantasy football. It's like he knows he's in my lineup. Just random times I've started him, but he's a guy that still has some potential. He did sign somewhat of a big deal, that 3 years, $37.5 million. And then, going down the rest of the roster, they signed Tevin Coleman today. I thought that was a cool pickup. Keelan Cole is neat. Again, compared to what they had. Sheldon Rankins, I think, is an underrated one. They got him from New Orleans. He got a 2-year deal for $17 million. And they signed like little random deals here and there, like Vinny Curry, bringing him over from Philadelphia. I think they moved the needle. I don't know if it's moved the needle to the point of playoff contender, whether their QB is Darnold or some rookie that they bring in. But I think they definitely got better in 2021. And unlike the Patriots, I don't think the moves that they made are moves that could potentially turn troublesome or worrisome next offseason or the year after. I think they brought in good players for maybe a little more than market value, but still good enough value with the space that they had combined with the need that they had to fill as well. And so I think, as much as I hate to say it because I hate the Jets, just like I hate every team in the AFC East that isn't the Bills, I think they got better.
Yes. Yeah, I think you said it well there. One of the things that I would add is you compare this to what the Patriots did. The Patriots made a lot of splash moves that didn't really add up or make sense necessarily, whereas these Jets moves all fill a role for them. It seems like their GM has a much better plan than what's going on with the Patriots, right? And they're thinking big picture. They're not just making the big splashes, even though they had a ton of money to spend. They're looking for guys who fit what they do. They put the money into the guys they wanted, and we have to talk about that defensive line now. That defensive line is going to be one of the best on paper in football. Again, they haven't played together, so we don't know what that's going to look like on the field. I'm not about to say that, they're going to be one of the best. They have to prove it. But with the moves they've made, that is one of the best defensive lines in football now. And they have all of the bodies there to prove it. So it tells you again, when I was saying at the beginning, that they're coming after the Buffalo Bills, right? They have to plan for the guy at the top, and right now that's the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. How do we stop a guy like Josh Allen? We got to get to him quick. We've got to get to him fast. We need to get pressure on him, and they brought in the guys who are capable of doing that. And on the offensive side, I agree with what you said about Corey Davis. He's a good compliment to Mims, and I think that starts to move them in the right direction. Probably the best move so far by the Jets for me is keeping what they're doing at quarterback silent. There is no news anywhere about this. We have no clue if they are going to keep Sam Darnold and roll with it, or if they've been planning all along to take a quarterback and with their top pick and move on and somehow trade Sam Darnold for whatever they can get for him. So that is it's savvy leadership, and they're doing a really good job over there. Now, whether that translates to them, moving the needle in terms of wins on the field, I think they're still a few seasons away from that, from competing for the division or anything like that. But again, we'll talk about rankings when we're done.
I wanted to get one thing in there on the Jets, because you mentioned the savvy leadership and keeping things a bit in-house. I think the Robert Saleh signing as their head coach was such a great move. I loved what he did in San Francisco and just what he's able to do on field with X's and O's, but also in terms of the type of leader and player-first kind of guy that he is. I think he meshes those two roles really well. Again, we've never seen him as a head coach, but I thought that was a really quality signing for the Jets, and whether it's coincidental or not, I think it's interesting to see an offseason now for the Jets where they've made moves, but they've done it very silently and almost very unassumingly. And the Darnold storyline isn't really out there. And whether it's coincidental or whether it's because of Robert Saleh's stewardship, I think it's a positive change in direction for the Jets when you take a look at who they brought in, combined with that type of leadership they have at the helm with Robert Saleh. I don't think this is a team in 2021 that we have to be like, okay, this is going to be a problem. But 2022, 2023, if they hit on their draft picks this year and next year, combined with these free agent moves, again, that leadership is so important. The Jets could be a team that we have to deal with and could be reckoned with in maybe 2023 as a team down the road. So I think they're trending in the right direction.
Yeah,
unfortunately, because I want them to.
I know it sounds weird saying that about the New York Jets, who were the laughing stock for the last couple of years in the NFL. But yeah, it's amazing what a change at head coach can do. And that's what you brought that up. And the free agents who came in actually said that he had an impact of why they went there, right? At least the two defensive linemen said specifically Saleh was the reason that they decided to go there, that he's
highly respected around the league, and he's got a good image, and having that buy-in for players, I think it was talked about so much with like McDermott and the Bills and Bean and everything, and culture and all this. But that's a legitimate thing. It brings guys together.
Spring forward at Banana Republic Factory with 50 to 70% off everything. Shop season favorites from colorful dresses to easy tops from $19.99. Find your nearest store or shop online only at Banana Republic Factory. Shop 50 to 70% off almost everything at Gap Factory. Get 60% off select jeans and dresses. Shop the sale through March 28th at Gap Factory and gapfactory.com.
It gets better performance out of your team, and it also brings people in or keeps people around. We saw the Isaiah Mckenzie quote today that he would have come back and played for Candy or whatever that line was, and he had better offers from a bunch of other teams, but he stuck around. And we saw the quote from Milano that he wanted to stay in Buffalo, and the list goes on for what you have for that. And if the Jets can create something like that, because again, your how your team prepares and executes, as much as talent is definitely a thing. But I'm a firm believer in your team takes on the personality of who is at the top. And for us, it's Sean McDermott. And for the Jets, it's Robert Saleh. And already here, not even in his first full offseason, but to hear that players respect him to the point that they're willing to go to the Jets, knowing where the Jets were last year, that speaks volumes already of Robert Saleh. And if he can get some wins under his belt and start to further that culture, this could be that signing of Saleh and then this offseason for the Jets could be one of those turning points that 5-6 years from now, Jet fans are pointing to this offseason as the one that kind of changed their fortunes for the future.
Absolutely. And you said it, right? Culture is everything. Culture matters, and they're a few years behind where the Bills were when we started to change our culture with McDermott and Bean, and hopefully for that organization at least they get things going. In terms of being a Bills fan, we hope that they miss on a few of those draft picks, and they can compete with us. That's fine, but they're not going to beat us, So we'll see with that. All right, so that brings us to the Miami Dolphins, and specifically here. They made a few changes as well. The two big ones for me, quarterback, they brought in Jacoby Brissett to be their backup. They lost Fitzpatrick, obviously, but bringing in a guy who has starting experience and they can throw in like Jacoby Brissett, I think that's making a statement for the team. And they signed Will Fuller as wide receiver, another guy who could come in, adds value to the team. I like that signing. So what do you think of those two additions and other changes the Dolphins made? They traded away former Buffalo Bill Shaq Lawson and got Mckenzie from the Texans. Not exactly an exciting move, but the fact that this was a guy they just signed last offseason, Shaq Lawson, and they were already moving on from him. Cut Kyle Van Noy, that was more of a cap move, I think, specifically. So, what do you think so far with these Dolphins moves?
These Dolphins moves this offseason have really not taken me by surprise. Last year, I thought the Dolphins were really set up for success going forward. I thought Flores did a good job the year before with basically almost nothing. They came into the draft with a ton of draft capital like they do this offseason, and they made a bunch of moves that going forward, you're like, okay, this is a team that might be a force to be reckoned with. Flores was building a culture, and they pulled out some wins that they shouldn't have. It cost them some draft slots, but it kind of brought the team together, and there was a lot of positive vibes for the Dolphins. But this offseason, I don't feel that way at all. I like the Will Fuller signing, 1 year, $10 million, and I think he's a really cool receiver to pair with Devontae Parker and Preston Williams. That's a very interesting trio. Even just the duo, Parker and Will Fuller with Mike Gesicki, that's a very interesting grouping. They have a good complement of weapons. My bigger question still is like, what's going on with the quarterback situation? Like, all of a sudden, Tua's not the guy. There's potential rumors of, maybe management wanted Tua, but maybe the coaches wanted Fitz, and we saw this weird starting pitcher, closing pitcher type of relationship between Tua and Fitz. It was all very odd, all very weird. Tua was supposed to be the chosen one and be this darling, and now all of a sudden he's terrible, and the Dolphins could be taking a QB with the third pick, or they still might try and trade for Deshaun Watson. Either way, that's not very good for Tua, and it's not good if you're trying to give a vote of confidence to Tua. And then you go with the moves they made this offseason. Nothing's really been solid. You got Brissett and you've got Fuller, like you mentioned. And other than that, there's not really much to speak of. Matt Skura and Adam Butler and Bills legend Robert Foster and Malcolm Brown, the former Los Angeles Rams running back. It's more just little pieces here and there. And when you put it together with, granted, no one anticipated this cap nonsense that everyone's had to deal with, but Van Noy is gone and Shaq Lawson is gone. Both were standout signings from last offseason that they've all of a sudden had to move on from just a year later. I think it shows some chinks in the armor for Miami. And last year I thought Miami was a huge team on the come up and that they were going to be a problem in the AFC as a whole. And I feel like as the season went on, as we've gone into this offseason, I think they've taken steps backwards, and now I'm sitting here thinking that the Jets have a brighter future than the Dolphins do.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually 100% on board with you with that one. That is exactly how I felt. Last year, I was the one in the preseason saying the Dolphins are going to finish second and contend for the playoffs. And people thought I was nuts. And they were like, you're crazy. The Dolphins aren't that good. I'm like, I'm telling you, they're better than the Patriots. They will finish second in this division. I made that bet, as I've talked about famously, and won some money on that one. But yeah, I think now you're right. I was shocked to see that because we've praised the head coach there and we've praised that leadership and how he was able to turn that team around. But they made a bunch of moves last year, and now all of a sudden they're moving on from those guys. And to me, it tells you there's something not right there, that they're still not happy with what's going on. And these guys they brought in that were supposed to be the answer, they're not making the right moves. The same can be said about Tua, right? They brought him in. He's supposed to be the answer. Now all of a sudden there's murmurings in and out of the clubhouse that he might not even be NFL worthy at this point. Like, this is crazy what people have said about the guy who's supposed to be your leader.
Weird way. Yeah, and it was such a weird way that he got the starting job. Like, Fitzy started turning them around and it was like, oh, Miami's got some traction. And then it was like, hey, we're moving to
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. And you're like, everybody was like, what? And then it's like, oh, he's not doing good. We got to bring Fitz in to close these games. But Tua's still the starter. And then he's got like an injury, but like not. It's just so weird. Especially, again, to your point, like juxtaposed with last year's offseason, which was like, man, this is a team that is on the come up, and now it's like, oh, they're kind of a mess.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that they are more poised for a letdown in 2021 than they are to continue the momentum that they gathered in 2021, especially at the quarterback position. Now, that can all change with the acquisition of Deshaun Watson on this team, right? Dear God. And the same could be said for all three of the teams in our division, which I know we've talked about some in this offseason, but they're all still in the running. Deshaun Watson is still out there. He is not playing for the Texans no matter what, so he will be traded. My hope, as I've been saying all along, is that the Texans refuse to trade him within the AFC so that NFC teams are more in the mix. There was a story today that despite the allegations, the serious allegations against Deshaun Watson of sexual harassment, that there are still several teams interested in trading for him. It might have affected his value, which maybe even make them more interested for that matter. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think it has to happen before draft. I don't think teams are going to wait till the NFL draft. And then obviously Houston wants to capitalize by getting picks in this draft and not having to, double down on next year. So it'll be interesting to watch the Deshaun Watson thing, but until he's in a Miami Dolphins uniform, the Tua situation is just so confusing. And bringing in a guy like Brissett, like I said, gives you some security that they could, if Tua's struggling, throw him in like they did with Fitz in the game when things were really on the line. So it'll be interesting to see how that all works out in Miami, because that's the biggest question for them. What's going on at quarterback? You just drafted this guy, and now you're saying he's not the guy that should be there. So,
Wild.
All right, so we've talked about all three of the teams in the division, and we know very well what our Bills have done, as we've discussed all on the Cover One Network and on our own shows, and mostly keeping guys in-house with a few additions. So let's go ahead and rank, the AFC East in terms of the acquisitions they've made so far and what we think of them so far. I definitely would put the Bills first. I'm guessing you would as well with this group, based just on our conversation here alone.
Yeah, most definitely. I think you return the heavy majority of a team that went 13-3 and went to the AFC Championship, and yeah, I don't think that's even like homerism to say that.
Right.
The Bills, they kept the team together that went 13-3, and they should continue to trend upward for some of those positions. So yeah, Bills are
just the fact that Bean was able to bring back all the guys that we said there's no way, it's impossible he can bring back all these guys at once.
Yeah.
He found a way to make it work. Isaiah McKenzie coming back on board this week was another one. I mean, it's people want to play in Buffalo, and they're willing to take a pay cut to do so. It's amazing. It's awesome to be in this situation.
I didn't think I'd live to see this time. I never thought this would happen, where the Bills would be like a destination because of the culture and the talent and the leadership I never knew if I'd see this day. It's wild to hear somebody like Matt Milano. I don't think because there's some Bills fans that are down on him. I don't think people realize how good of a linebacker Matt Milano is, not just for the Bills, but in terms of the NFL landscape, and especially in today's NFL. He is a very good linebacker, and he came back because he wanted to and potentially left some dollars on the table.
Oh, definitely.
He came back, he came back on, all things considered, a pretty affordable and team-friendly deal, and he chose that. Now, maybe he tested the waters and it wasn't as good out there as he thought it would be, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, he came back because he wanted to be here, and he came back at a very team-friendly contract.
Yes.
And we were able to do that and retain Darrell Williams and bring back Feliciano at an affordable amount, lower than his market value.
Magic Bean contract, too. The one that is 1 year voidable at a cheap price.
Yes, give me that. Bean just doing it again, and it's hard to argue with the track record of what the Bills have done these past several years, what they did into this offseason, and I think just being able to keep that band together with what they've done, the Bills are still on top.
And you brought up probably the biggest point that I want to emphasize, which is the Matt Milano thing. Yeah, as I've said many times, he's been my favorite Bill on this team for a long time because of his contribution. He was a 5th-round draft pick, and he came in and just has shined and done everything this team has wanted and more, and become one of the top coverage linebackers in the NFL, and he's an all-around linebacker as well. I mean, when he's on the field, the defense plays better, period. And I absolutely love that about him. And the problem with Bills fans right now is they saw in the AFC Championship game, he got pushed around by one of the best players in the NFL in Travis Kelce that the Bills were not able to contain. And you can't judge his 4-year performance with the Bills on that. And yes, he had injury problems this year and he missed a few games, but when he came back, he played well still. And you got to look at his whole body of work. And I'm so excited that he's still going to be on this team. I never thought I'd see it. But moving on, we said, okay, so we both have the Bills at number 1. No surprise there. The other three, so who do you have at number 2 with the other 3 teams left?
Despite the fact that the contracts are bloated and they overpaid a lot, I'm going to put the Patriots number 2. I think they got a lot better on paper as a team. Again, granted, the contracts are what the contracts are, but if you're just looking at it from a roster perspective, adding Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry and Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne and Matthew Judon and Jalen Mills, and I know Cam still isn't an ideal quarterback, but he's a better option than potentially what we're looking at in the rest of the AFC East with how Darnold has trended and how Tua has trended. Combine that with Belichick, I'm going to put the Pats as number 2. And again, the contracts are what the contracts are, but if we're just looking at it from a roster perspective and a talent perspective, the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go Jets at 2 because, as we talked about, I think it's the roster building, the idea of changing the culture, bringing in the right guys to fit their roles on this team, and they're looking at the whole picture and not just let's win now and sign all these big market names and everything. So I'm going to put the Jets at 2, and then the Patriots would definitely be my 3 just because of the quality of the names they brought in. We'll see if it works out for them. But yeah, the Patriots are my 3, and the Dolphins, therefore, by default, would be my last, just because, as we discussed, I feel them trending down hard. So who's your 3 and 4? Is it also Jets, Miami?
Yeah, same thing. Miami would be 4th for me, and then the Jets would be my 3. Just go. If we're just looking at going into 2021, yeah, the Pats are my 2, the Jets are my 3. If we're looking at this offseason as a whole in terms of who got better now and what the future looks like, the Jets would be my 2, and the Patriots would be my 3. But no matter what, yeah, Miami's sitting in the basement just because I don't like what they've done and I question their direction. But to your point earlier, all of that can change in the blink of an eye if, we get breaking news at some minute and it's like, oh, the Miami Dolphins have traded for Deshaun Watson. That all changes drastically.
Exactly. Yeah, so hopefully we never get that news. And
yeah, I really hope we don't.
The one thing they do have going for them, the Jets and the Dolphins both have a lot of picks in this draft. So do the Patriots, considering where they usually are and lack of draft picks. So it'll be interesting to see the guys that these three teams bring in the draft and how that ranks up with the Bills. So the draft will be the next topic once we get going through free agency here. All right, so let's now move to around the league. I want to know, let's start with the teams. Team-wise, what team do you think did the best, and what team do you think did the worst, and why so far? Non-AFC East.
Copy that. So my best team, and there's several teams who have done really well, and I'm going to go with this team because the moves that they made were good, but it was also guys that I really valued who were available on the open market. I'm going to go with the Washington football team.
Nice.
You've got a team that won the NFC East last year, and they did it with a lot of rockiness at quarterback between Haskins and Alex Smith. It was wild. And then Taylor Heineke, who looked pretty good. You did not have complementary pieces to Terry McLaurin other than Logan Thomas. Antonio Gibson was cool, but he got banged up. Looking at what they did this offseason, I love that they brought in Ryan Fitzpatrick because it's like, all right, cool, this is a quarterback who can get the ball to Terry McLaurin. But then they go out and they get Curtis Samuel. So now all of a sudden that offense, I think, is legitimate. You've got Fitz at quarterback. You've got Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel. You've got Logan Thomas. And then you've got Antonio Gibson coming out of the backfield. That's a tremendous grouping of weapons and a quarterback who he's turnover prone, but that offense should be able to legitimately put points on the board. And when you couple it with a defense, a ferocious pass rush, although I know Ryan Kerrigan is currently a free agent, but with Chase Young and that entire grouping up front, they had a unit last year. And then they go out and get somebody like William Jackson in free agency, someone who was my number one priority for the Bills this offseason because of his scheme versatility and his coverage versatility and what he allows you to do on the back end combined with his speed and his length and his efficiency and productivity. I think he's an upgrade at their corner spot. So they got better in the secondary in addition to really heavily upgrading their offense. Washington was my number one. And I think they go into a boat with a lot of other teams, depending on what you're looking for.
Virginia, William Hill, America's #1 sportsbook, is now here. And we have a special 2021 offer to help you bet on all your favorite sports risk-free. Download the William Hill Sportsbook app, and when you sign up, you can get started with a risk-free bet of up to $2,021. Use promo code RADIORF.
Terms and conditions apply. 21 plus only. Gambling problem? Call, text, or chat our confidential and toll-free helpline at 1-888-532-3500.
Let's make it interesting with William Hill Sportsbook.
Spring forward at Banana Republic Factory with 50 to 70% off everything. Shop season favorites from colorful dresses to easy tops from $19.99. Find your nearest store or shop online only at Banana Republic Factory. Shop 50 to 70% off almost everything at Gap Factory. Get 60% off select jeans and dresses. Shop the sale through March 28th at Gap Factory and gapfactory.com.
Might have somewhat different, but for me it was Washington. Again, it's a team that won the NFC East, and they've really bolstered their attack and gotten better at some of their strengths and cured a lot of deficiencies. For my worst, there's several ways to go. You know, you and I talked offline about the Saints potentially because of how many people they've had to let go because they were in cap hell and everything. But for me, I'm going to go, and I feel like it's low-hanging fruit, and I feel bad. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears. You lose Fuller. You potentially are going to lose Hicks. You try and make a huge offer for Russell Wilson, and you don't get it. And then you bring in, and I feel bad because I like Andy Dalton, and he's a hero in Bills lore because he helped get us to the playoffs in 2017. But you go from Trubisky and Foles to then Andy Dalton for 1 year, $10 million, and then announce him as the QB1 after not getting Russell Wilson. That's just such a far drop. Like, you were in there for Russell Wilson, and then you fell off, and now you got Andy Dalton, and they're in this position where they probably don't get one of the top QBs in the draft because of where they pick in the first round, and they're going to be in cap hell next year with Khalil Mack. They might have to trade him. Like, they're just in such shambles from a roster perspective and a monetary perspective. And they tag Allen Robinson, but again, you got nobody throwing him the ball. they lost key contributors. They did not get better, and considering where they were rumored to be with Russell Wilson, and again, I feel bad saying it because I like Andy Dalton, but to go from potentially having Russell Wilson to then go into Andy Dalton, like, is it, the fact that we even have to sit here and debate, like, okay, is Andy Dalton better than, like, Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky? And both of those QBs, Foles and Trubisky, got slayed last year in the national media and the Chicago media for not being up to snuff. What's Andy Dalton going to do now? Because they don't even have the complementary weapons in Chicago like they did in Dallas, and we saw what happened with Dalton in Dallas, and now he's going to go to Chicago. I don't like what they did, and they play in a tough division. Green Bay is legitimate. Mm-hmm. Minnesota is a good team. Yeah. Detroit is kind of a dumpster fire, but whatever there. I don't like what they did at all.
Yeah, the Bears were definitely the low-hanging fruit of, wow, you really screwed that up, didn't you? Yeah. They were all in on trying to get Russell Wilson, and it didn't happen, and that really let them down. Not to mention they lost Mitchell Trubisky, new Buffalo Bill, right? So, very true. It's tough. It's tough for that organization. But what are you going to do? They have to move on, field a team. Two of the teams that I had as my worst team in free agency so far are both in the AFC, and that is the Steelers and the Ravens. It's tough to say that and think that because these are two very well-run organizations, two playoff teams. What is going on with the Steelers, for me, are probably the one I would pick first. The Ravens, it's mainly because they lost two of their major rushers in Judon and Yannick Ngakoue, and they haven't signed anybody. They got Zeitler for their offensive line, which was a guy I know you and I were both very excited about and hoping for. So that's a good move, but it's the lack of defense and the fact that there's stories coming out saying wide receivers did not want to sign with the Ravens despite getting better offers because they don't really throw to wide receivers there in that offense, and it's more centered around the tight end and the quarterback. So it's interesting there for the Ravens. The Steelers, for me, look, they started 11-0. They fell on their friggin' faces harder than any team in NFL ever has. They went from being the undefeated team in the NFL to one of the silliest franchises in the NFL overnight, just like that, because they started losing games. Their real selves came out. They had an easy schedule to start the season, and when it came time to put out, they could not. Right? They fell on their face in the playoffs. They could not compete. Ben Roethlisberger looked like he couldn't get it done anymore. They were in a bad cap situation. They lost Bud Dupree. And they haven't had anything really of significance on this team to have me get excited for them. They re-signed Juju Smith-Schuster, who also didn't have an exciting 2020 season. So, I mean, it's just interesting to me that this team is bringing it back in 2021 after falling so hard in 2021 or in 2020 in the playoffs. I just can't imagine that this team is going to be any better. They're going to be what we saw in the late half of the season and not the 11-0 team. So we'll see for them, but they were certainly one that I was low on. My best team, and you know it kills me to say this, but the best team for me in free agency is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Gross. That's simply because they won the Super Bowl. And mostly, you know, when you win the Super Bowl, your stock goes up. So a lot of these free agents on that team, they knew their stock was up. They won the Super Bowl. They have a ring. They have to prove it. They got there, right? And especially the guys on that defense that were free agents. And they were able to bring everybody back. It's crazy. They brought all of the guys they wanted to back. And again, this reminds me of what the Buffalo Bills have done. We brought our guys back because we built them. We believe in them. We made it work. If the Bills had won the Super Bowl, I believe the Bills would take this same approach that the Tampa Bay Bucs have done. And these guys are signing there for maybe less money, the same way that they have signed in Buffalo, because they are happy with the culture, happy with the team. They know they won. They want a chance to bring it back. And to bring back those guys that they did when they probably could have gotten the most out of free agency is an impressive move. So I have to give Tampa Bay the respect there.
I think that's a fair assessment. And your comparison to what the Bills did is a really nice touch. As much as I think, I feel like I always say this around Tom Brady teams. I know Tampa Bay was very good, but just some of the things that happened in the playoffs that happened to guide them to the Super Bowl, where they legitimately destroyed Kansas City, but they had a lot of breaks go their way in the Saints game and then even in the Green Bay game. But despite that, they are the Super Bowl champions, and they are legitimately able to run it back. We were sitting here talking this offseason, okay, like, are they going to be able to bring back Barrett and Godwin, and what do they do? And then they tag Godwin, they bring back Barrett, they brought Sue back. They're keeping the band together, and it's a team that just won.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Like, I completely forgot about Levante David. Like, they were able to retain him. There were so many questions that, much like the Bills, so many questions of, okay, they've got these three guys. Maybe they can keep one of them. Who do they get to keep? Instead, they keep everybody, and they bring back Sue. So really, kudos to them. And the Steelers, again, you and I talked about it offline. I just forgot about them because they haven't done anything except lose players. And Chicago, to me, they made a move and then also lost people. But the move that they made, I didn't like. Whereas the Steelers were just, they've done nothing. And we talked about it offline. You lose Hilton, you lose Nelson, so two of your starting corners are out. They lost Bud Dupree. Now you're hoping Highsmith can step in, and he looked good last year. But it's a team that, exactly like you said, really had a bad half of the year and then got absolutely embarrassed in the playoffs. They should have, and the way they started to come back, if they had played like that from the beginning, they should have beat the Cleveland Browns. But instead, they just decided to throw up all over themselves in the first quarter and go down so bad. And then they lose a bunch of their strength, which was that defense, and they've done nothing to address it. Part of the reason, like you mentioned, they don't have the cap space, and they can't do anything really, and so they're just sitting there watching the Browns add people and get better, and the Ravens added Zeitler, but they really haven't done anything else, and then there's rumors around that. It's just wild to see.
You know what kills me about these moves, too? Is it sets up really nicely for the Browns to do well in 2021. And it kills me to say that because you know how I feel about the Browns. Well, specifically about Baker Mayfield, but
you
the Browns.
love him. No, it is just kind of lining up. And the Browns had a good offseason this offseason so far. And the Steelers are just sitting around not doing anything except losing players left and right. And, I wonder for their future of what they're going to do because the wheels have seemingly fallen off. But I feel like that happens every once in a while from time to time with Pittsburgh, and Tomlin's able to rally the troops. But, I don't even care that Juju took a pay cut. Juju had a bad year. Yeah. He's out here giving teams extra fuel with all this stupid dancing and his stupid TikToks. And you got Chase Claypool, streaming live video games and talking about like, I don't even it doesn't even matter that we lost because, Cleveland's going to get killed by Kansas City next week, whatever. Just looking like super immature and like an idiot after he was chirping all year about how they were undefeated and, this team lost, we're undefeated. Like, their culture seems to be lacking. They lost a bunch of players and I don't like what they've done.
I'm not excited about that team for sure.
No, and they did so bad that I forgot that they've even existed this offseason.
Yeah, this should have been Big Ben's last year, and the fact that they're bringing him back is not going to work out for them, I don't think. So we'll see. All right, so just quickly before we move on to the next segment, bargain or garbage bin, your favorite and your least favorite signing, I'll give you mine, maybe the most surprising for me at least. My least favorite was Ronald Darby. I was shocked. And he's playing right here for the Denver Broncos. And really, it's not about the player. I mean, I think he's a decent player at this point. But to give him $10 million a year to be your starting cornerback, I mean, that's way too much money for Ronald Darby, I thought. I was just shocked. I'm like, damn, if he's getting that much money, other guys are really going to get paid at that position. But we'll see. I guess the Broncos really saw something in him for their system. And my favorite signing, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's the Jets with Carl Lawson. We already talked about it. I think he brings a lot to that team. We wanted him to be a Buffalo Bill. It wasn't meant to be. They paid him what he's worth and more, gave him a lot of guaranteed money, and the Bills are going to be worried about him for years to come now. So what do you got for me? Maybe this most shocking, best, worst.
Ronald Darby was up there for my worst, but my worst, again, it's not because of the player. It's because of the deal. Trey Hendrickson going to Cincinnati. I like Trey Hendrickson. I don't like him for 4 years and $60 million. We discussed him a lot as a network
Yeah.
of Cover One. Greg talked about him on the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You guys talked about him on the Hoof. I talked about him on Disguised Coverage. We talked about him together when we've done some of our super shows. He's somebody who he's a hustle guy, and he's got some talent that I don't want to discredit that. But he's a guy who got a lot of cleanup sacks and got a lot of sacks that were due to the work of others. And not that can't continue, but he got paid a pretty penny. And I don't think his value is 4 years, $60 million and 15 per. That's a lot for Trey Hendrickson. And I like him. I like the player. I don't like the contract that he got. So for me, that's one of my worst. And again, especially on a defense in Cincinnati where now Dunlap is gone, Carl Lawson's gone, Geno Atkins is gone. Like Trey Hendrickson is the only dude on that defensive line. So you're hoping that he can ascend and become a premier top-tier pass rusher. That's a lot to ask for.
By himself now, yep.
Yeah, legitimately by himself. That's rough. And my best signing or most surprising, I really like the John Johnson signing for Cleveland, even though I don't like Cleveland. I know.
Here we go again.
I'm sorry to do it to you. 3 years, $33.75 million. Really versatile on the back end. He's had a lot of good coverage seasons, tackling seasons. He's somebody that allows you to stay versatile in your back end. And I think it was a quieter move and one that isn't talked about everywhere with all the moves that have been done. But I thought that was a really quiet signing in terms of quality and especially what they got him for. Like, not a lot of money, good term. And if you look at his grading, like he's over 80 in both his overall defender grade, rush defense grade,
that's pretty good,
tackling and coverage. Like he had one of the best overall seasons as a defender last year, especially from the secondary position, especially from the safety position. And when you add any strength to the secondary in Cleveland, knowing that they've got Myles Garrett up front, like that's just such an easy kind of
another difference maker on that defense. Yeah, I like that choice. That's a pretty solid one because it gets them trending in the direction that they want for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Speaking of individual players, I came up with this segment. We thought about doing it on the live show, but I wanted to do it here with you. We might bring it back as time rolls on here, but it's called Bargain Bin or Garbage Bin. And the idea again here is that we'll give a player name and we have to decide whether we think they would be a bargain, a good fit on a team and for the price they're asking, or garbage bin, meaning they're kind of washed up. We wouldn't want them anymore. They're not really the right fit. So, Anthony, I'll start by giving you a name, and you could tell me what you think, and we'll go back and forth. You give me a name, and I'll tell you what I think. And we're going to start with Trent Murphy. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Shout out to Aaron Quinn, though, because if you don't know the story, the preseason, I was one of the only Bills Mafia pounding the table saying he absolutely should have been cut for the salary he was at. And I got a lot of blowback from Greg and specifically Aaron Quinn, who was a Trent Murphy stan, and he's lived up to it all season. So shout out to them for that one. Yeah, we know what Trent Murphy is. Thank you for your service, Trent Murphy. You were overpaid in 2020, and they should have cut you. But really, okay. So I'll start. I'll give you my first name, Richard Sherman.
Ooh, if we're talking for overall for like other teams, I think he can be bargain. But if I'm looking at the Bills, and I know his name has been thrown around a lot, for me, he'd be in the trash bin. Mm-hmm. I like his head. I like his technique. I like his execution. I like what he brings. But he is not the most fleet of foot, to say nicely. I worry about the speed aspect and the athleticism aspect on the back end. Mm-hmm. We're already a defense as a whole, and especially in our secondary, that's built on being technically sound. I want a horse at corner 2, somebody who can run and keep up with the Tyreek Hills and the Mecole Hardmans of the world. Sherman does not fit that bill for me, but I think he could fit that bill for, no pun intended, for another team that isn't the Bills. So if we're looking at him in terms of like a signing overall for the league, I think he's a bargain. But if I'm looking at him for the Bills, I'm going to lean more towards the trash. I'm not going to throw him all the way in. Maybe like I close the lid and he's still hanging out a little bit because he's still, again, he's a good player. I'm not holistically throwing him in there and slamming it shut, but I don't think he's a right fit given how we're constructed.
I respect this guy. I respect Richard Sherman, but for me, he is garbage bin at this point in his career. All you have to do is turn back the tape on the Buffalo-San Francisco game in 2020, and to me, that shows you all you need to know. He's not the player he used to be. Obviously, he's getting older, and I would not want him in Buffalo, and I would not want him on my team if I was, starting another GM for another organization. But the one story that does make sense to me, and there were murmurs of this earlier today when I was looking up on him, was him going back to Seattle. I think that would be great, just for the the feeling it gives you. He is a Seattle Seahawk. He will go in the Hall of Fame as a Seattle Seahawk. But I right now in his career, he's all the way garbage bin for me. All right, so who you got for me? Give me a name and I'll tell you.
I'm going to start with somebody who's been spoken about in Bills Mafia circles for the second offseason in a row, and some sites even have him listed as their top remaining free agent available, Mr. Jadavian Clowney. Bargin bin or garbage bin?
We talked a lot about Jadavian Clowney on the Hoof Podcast when we were talking about potential edges for the Bills to sign. And I got to tell you, I am going straight garbage bin with this guy. How many teams has he been on already? And this is a guy who tried asking for $25 million last year per year and did not get that anywhere. Ended up settling for 13, nearly half of that, and did not live up to that because he was injured and did not flash at all. And he's still a potential top pass rusher, but come on, man. You've got to show me something on the field now. It's more like you're taking a 1-year, $5 million deal and prove you can do it again to cash in next time. Because right now, for me, I have to go garbage bin. I think there's more to his attitude as well. There's something there that teams don't like. And even when he's on their team and they're willing to move on from him like that, I have to say garbage bin.
Yeah, he's a garbage bin for me as well, which is just crazy to say given where he was drafted with Houston and how his career started out. And it's wild to see the drop in his market value right now on SpotTrack is $6.5 million average annual value. His market value deal, projected deal, it's not even a multi-year deal. It's literally a 1-year, $6.5 million deal. That's how much he's dropped. I don't even know if I'd sign him to that just because it's so unknown. You hit it on the head, whether it's injuries or attitude concerns. He just has not delivered the production that we thought we'd see from him. Especially for the Bills, we need some sort of low or some sort of high floor guaranteed expectation at edge going into this year. I do not want any parts of Jadavian Clowney. Yes, his ceiling still might be there, but if he's got a high ceiling, he's got a tremendously low floor. He's a guy who could do great things or do absolutely nothing. He's too boom or bust. He's too unpredictable. He's too mercurial in his on-field and off-the-field ways. Yeah, I want no parts of Jadavian Clowney. No, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to give you another one on the defensive side. A guy who has been talked about with the Bills, Kawan Short.
Ooh, I'd say bargain. I'd say bargain for that, especially when you look at the type of deal he could be brought in on. He's similar in that Darrell Williams mold, former Panther, coming off of an injury, could come in on the cheap, potentially develop a little bit, especially if we're looking at him to be a rotational piece. I don't know how much we're looking for him now, but if some team is willing to take a flyer on him, I think he could be a bargain. Again, based on what his perceived contract would be, which no one's given him 3 years, $50 million. He's going to get some sort of value level deal, and if he can reclaim some of that form and be a rotational piece, I think he's a bargain guy.
Yeah, I'd agree with you that I'd definitely put him in the bargain bin at this point. I think he can sign a short deal, be a good piece for a team. I don't know if that team will be the Bills anymore. One thing we didn't talk about was earlier today, we're recording this on Wednesday evening, the Bills signed defensive end F.A. Obata out of Carolina, of all places, right? Another British guy. So we're turning into the British Buffalo Bills, apparently.
Oh, I like the accent. Look at you.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean that's certainly a guy. I think he'll be a good fit on a team. Still has it in the tank, and he's not going to command top dollar at this point. All right, so you go ahead and give me another one. What do you got?
I'm going to stay on the edge because I still think that's a position that even with the Obata signing, I still think edge is an area of concern for the team. Carlos Dunlap.
Ooh.
What do you think? Bargain or garbage?
I'm going to go bargain bin as well again here.
Okay.
I think it's the same type of situation that we just talked with Short. He's, going to probably sign a short-term deal, show that he can still do it, still has some in the tank, and be a good piece for a team. I would love it if he signed with Buffalo, so I'll take him in the bargain bin.
Yeah, I'm going to go bargain as well, especially for what kind of deal I think he could get. And he's still an edge presence in both the run and the pass rush. He should be cheaper than some other edge rushers that are still on the market, given his age, which he is 32 years old. But he still offers production. He's a guy who's been productive for a very long time in this league. He has that proven ability. And again, if you're working him in rotation with, because that's the big thing, with edge. We don't need, I'd love to have an every down starter stud, but with how the Bills like to rotate, give me a guy who can function in that rotational role. And if you're telling me I can get Carlos Dunlap with Jerry Hughes, Mario Addison, and AJ Epinesa, or Carlos Dunlap goes to some team like that where he functions into a rotation,
right.
I think he's
he could
bargaining
thrive
all day. Yeah.
All right, I've got another name for you. This time I'll switch to the offensive side. Antonio Brown. There's rumors that Tampa Bay might also want to re-sign him. Can we take just a second to realize that the guys we just mentioned, two of the names we mentioned on this list, Antonio Brown and Jadavian Clowney, not even 2-3 years ago, these are two of the best players in the NFL.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about, are they a bargain or garbage? So at this point in their career, what do you got for me with Antonio Brown? Bargain bin or garbage bin?
Garbage all day. I think he might still have some left in the tank on the field. I think he's a garbage person, as a human being, aside from the NFL. I'm not trying to be hot takey, and I really try to separate the personal from the professional, but with just how much he's put himself as a person out there in so many forms and fashions, and it's just not pleasant. He just seems like a bottom tier human being, and especially after how he did Buffalo and how he did the Raiders, and it just makes Tomlin look even smarter for getting rid of him in Pittsburgh. I just think he's way too unpredictable as a person. You don't know what could happen. I don't even want to get into it too much with him. He's garbage for me. I want no parts of Antonio Brown, regardless of if he can regain his all-pro form or not, regardless of how much he has left in the tank. I want no parts, whether on the Bills or any team, to be honest. Even if I'm a wide receiver-starved team, even if I'm the Detroit Lions, I want no parts of Antonio Brown.
I could not agree with you more in this case. It's more of what he's done as a human being and as an NFL player, dicking around these teams, not playing, demanding money, then signing contracts that he can't live up to and won't follow the rules, even though he said he would originally. I would not take that risk. To me, he's got to be complete garbage.
Yeah, I'm 1,000% on board with you, and I've got one for you now.
Okay.
Someone who I think you might like, maybe, just a smidge. Melvin Ingram.
Ah, yeah. Oh, definitely bargain bin. If I'm the GM right now and there's one more guy I could sign to this team, at the top of my list is Melvin Ingram. Please bring me Melvin Ingram. I want to see what he can do in this defense. He's my favorite guy out there. Please bring him in. I think paired with the team we've got, in the system we've got, he won't have to play a lot of snaps. He's had injury history, but we know about the Bills' facilities and what they can do and how they've been able to, use that top medical facility in the NFL to really rehab and help players get the most out of themselves and stay healthy through the season. And he can use it as maybe a bargaining chip if he signs a 1-year deal of saying, okay, look, I still have it. Somebody else will give me a 2 or 3 year deal and a little bit more money. So I'd give him 3 years right now at the right price. But certainly for me, this is a bargain.
Yeah, I agree. And Spot Track right now has his average annual value pegged at 11.4. I think he's going to get lower than that, and that's what really makes it a bargain for me. In addition to what you said, you hit it right on the head. With the Bills' facilities and medical staff, knock on wood, hoping that those things continue. I am very superstitious. That his biggest thing has been the injury concerns over the last several years. But if you've got top-notch medical facilities and staff combined with the other part that you said, which was the rotation piece, we're not asking him to be the top guy opposite of Bosa like he was for the Chargers. We're looking at him to rotate in, and this is a guy who, from 2016 to 2018, he had 3 straight seasons of 70-plus pressures. He was a terror off the edge. He is a very strong pass rushing threat. He's good enough in his run defense, but he's somebody, if we could unleash him and rotate him in with Addison and Hughes and Epinesa, I think that's a really quality thing. And getting him less snaps combined with the medical team lowers his potential injury risk. And again, I think he's going to sign for less than that 11.4 average annual value, and I would take that. Yeah, at this point, 1,000%. I would. I don't know if he's the biggest bargain because it's going to depend on how you value the term bargain given the money and production. But
Right.
he's the one name that's really left on free agency. Like, and I'm going to echo your point there, who I'm really just keeping eyes on. Like, every day, I'm just like, where's Melvin Ingram? Where's Melvin Ingram? And knowing that he went to the Chiefs for a visit and left without
a
signing.
contract, yes.
Yep.
That made me nervous.
I'm holding out hope.
All right, so I've got one more name for you that I want to throw in there. Certainly been talked around Bills Mafia. Sammy Watkins.
Oh, bargain. Just kidding. Garbage. I don't want... You and I, again, spoke about this offline. Even before the article from Tyler Dunn came out, which was tremendously insightful and just really great in all aspects, he got hurt, went to Disney World or whatever down in Florida. People were commenting on one of his posts on Instagram, and then he came back talking about how, you guys need to get a life. I'll do whatever I want to do. I'm in the NFL. Like, I'm better than you. Blah, all this stuff. He just seemed like not the best of people. And then reading everything in that article, granted, maybe he's grown as a person now, but I'm not even talking about the aliens and everything else. I'm just talking about the whole lack of professionalism and him not going to rehab when he hurt his foot, him staying out until all hours of the night drinking, and I don't want any parts of that. Not to mention, for the Bills, I think our wide receiver room is tremendous, and I don't want to add anything volatile or anything substandard to that grouping. But again, even if I'm another team,
Right.
for me, like, if I'm any team and I'm giving Sammy Watkins a deal, I don't know, like 1 year, like $3 million at most. Even in Kansas City, he was hurt so much, and it's a shame because he does have talent and size. And we led off talking about Richard Sherman. Sammy cooked Sherman in the Super Bowl to really clinch the Super Bowl for the Chiefs. And when he's on the field, he's able to do some things, but he's just so unpredictable in terms of his production and his health and his behavior. I don't want him if I'm any team. Like, if you are signing Sammy Watkins with the intention of like needing him to be a key contributor to your team, garbage all day. No parts. No thank you.
Yeah, I absolutely am on the same page with you that he is garbage bin for sure for me. I remember when he left Buffalo, it was time to move on. His injury history, all of that stuff, it just didn't happen for him in Buffalo the way we wanted it to. And then he signs with the Chiefs. He has one good season. Everybody goes nuts. Oh, we should have kept Sammy Watkins. And what did we see again when it all played out? The guy can't stay healthy, period. That alone, if I'm a team, that puts him in the garbage bin. He cannot stay healthy. You have to question his state of mind, and I don't necessarily mean his beliefs and all of that, just the fact that he's not always 100% in it. And yeah, it's got to be garbage. I know it brings back memories for Bills fans in a time when we were dismal and had very little hope, but I just can't see it happening with Sammy Watkins, so he's garbage for me.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right. So any last minute thoughts on anything? You want to give me one more if you've got one, or we can wrap up? All right.
More.
Let's see. Give me it.
I got one more. Cornerback, another position of need as we continue to move towards the draft. Malcolm Butler.
Oh.
Bargain or garbage?
At this point in free agency, I have to go bargain for sure with Malcolm Butler. I think he's worth the value. If I'm a cornerback needy team, I take him. If the Bills signed him right now, I'd be happy with it. because I don't see it being a $10 million deal like Ronald Darby got. It's probably going to be more in the 5-6 1 year range, right? And for that, I'd take him all day. Are you kidding me? I'd love to have him on the team. My fear with him is that he's going to end up on a team against us, like, maybe the Jets or the Patriots or somebody like that. But definitely, I have to say bargain bin with Butler at this point.
I agree. I think you were actually kind of spot on with your projection there. I think he signed something like a 1 year, anywhere from 5 to maybe $8 million, or maybe like that's the average annual value for a 2-year
incentives,
deal.
maybe,
Yeah. Yep, maybe incentive laden. And at this point in free agency, I think he could be a really top bargain. He's got scheme versatility. He's a career 58.9 reception percentage allowed, although the last 3 years it was 62.7, and then 63.7 in 2018. But he offers the speed and athleticism aspect in the secondary, especially at that corner 2 positioning. He's a really smart, heady player. Eric Turner did a breakdown of how he baited Josh into an interception this past year. I like what he brings, and given the anticipated contract he could sign, yeah, he's a bargain for me as well. If somebody's coming at him with, though, like, somehow someone's throwing like Darby or Adoree Jackson money at him, no thank you, I'm out. That's garbage. But if we can get him on the cheap, which it looks like we can given the suitors and given where we are in free agency, I think that could be a big bargain.
Yeah.
And that's all I got.
Gotta love it. Well, Anthony Prohaska, I gotta thank you for coming on the show with me and sticking around and recording with me. We went for a while. This was great. We got a lot of content in, and we've wanted to get this together, the Anthony Squared show going on here for a while now. So I'm glad we could find the time to make it work. And tell everybody where you're at. Everybody's familiar, hopefully, with the Cover One Network and Disguised coverage, but tell them what you got coming up, what's going on with you, where to find you, etc.
So I am Anthony Prohaska, as you kindly alluded to. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro, 2 underscores, ANT. As Anthony mentioned, I am the host of Disguised Coverage, a show on the Cover One Sports Network. It airs live every Thursday at 9 p.m., and you can find it on YouTube. You can find the episodes posted later on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much anywhere and everywhere that you listen to podcasts. On any podcasting platform, you can find Disguised Coverage. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. We've done several episodes together, but this is our first solo one together here on the Hoof.
Yeah.
And it'll be the second time that we've worked together this week, because you and I are also doing a little Anthony Squared action on Disguised Coverage this week, so I'm very excited.
Yes, that should be a fun one, too. Excited for that conversation, because I've got stories to tell, for sure.
I know, I'm very excited to see your answers that you got for the episode.
So for those of you listening to this on Friday, you have to go back and tune in if you missed that one, because I'm sure it's going to be a great time. Anthony, thank you again for joining me. I'm Anthony Romeo. You know me from the Hoof Podcast here. If you're listening to this, you know where to find us. Don't forget, like, subscribe, send us some messages, talk to us on Twitter. Me, Eric, and Sterling all interact with people. Love it when you contact us. Add us on Twitter, whatever it may be. And don't forget about our live show on Tuesday nights on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere it's available. So tune in for that as well. Again, thank you, Anthony. Go Bills.
Spring forward at Banana Republic Factory with 50 to 70% off everything. Shop season favorites from colorful dresses to easy tops from $19.99. Find your nearest store or shop online only at Banana Republic Factory. Shop 50 to 70% off almost everything at Gap Factory. Get 60% off select jeans and dresses. Shop the sale through March 28th at Gap Factory and gapfactory.com.
This week at Target, brighten your look with big deals on Easter dresses. We have women's starting at $10 and girls' dresses starting at $8. Let the Eastering begin. See all the styles at Target today, where low prices and great deals make it easy to save. Pricing may vary.